Hey there, folks. This is Virtual Dad Love, Trinity Yoga, Trinity the Director. I have many personas. And I have many experiences. I have many different versions of myself that I consult for any given situation. All humans do this. Now, do they do it the way I do it? I don't know. I'm sure there's, out of the 8 billion of us, there are others like me. I can virtually guarantee it. But they don't necessarily do things the way I do. So I'm unique. And when you begin to study the science of the self, and you come in contact with those that are like enough to you, that you can spot the differences. Think of it as if you are a person of a given epithelial representation, aka race, aka ancestral commonality, right? You can see the contrast, the shapes, the differences between one person and another. But when you come into contact with people of other epithelial representation, they may look too similar for you to designate one from another, unless you become attuned to the differences of that experience. And I've probably already lost an audience that is larger than a very niche group right now, just in the way I've already framed things. Say things simply. But simple is abstraction. Complexity is an acknowledgement of the reality that we live in. I was watching this video of an Orthodox priest who is quoted as saying that Orthodox fundamentalism or internet fundamentalism is a plague. And I may be paraphrasing. And that's it, right? Like, simple ideas are beautiful and distracting because they allow us to create a digestible experience. And like all beautiful things, they distract you from reality. All right, it's a human condition. Beauty distracts from reality. Like, you see a beautiful person and their beauty lures you into believing they're nice, they have an easy life, that they deserve something that you don't deserve, that they're somehow have a higher premium value than you do as an individual. And maybe you're a beautiful person, right? And you fall in love with the idea of how easy life is without ever acknowledging your beauty. Or, the truth, the complex truth is that beautiful people fart. Beautiful people have the shits. Beautiful people have horrible diseases. Beautiful people can be terrible human beings. Beautiful people can be all the things that we hope and desire for of them. But so can an ugly person. You can also fall in love with this simple idea, this beautiful idea that if you have difficult things in life, like say you've got a physical disfigurement, that, or some kind of mental handicap, that somehow that makes you more innocent, that you're more pure-hearted, that you earn things, whatever, right? And if you are a person that people consider any of those things, your full spectrum of your experience is far more complex than what people try and reduce you to. But the shorthand that we use in these assumptions is there for survival. What does that mean? In other words, I need to decide, is something a threat or not a threat? Is something edible or not edible? Right? It's only when you have a largesse, a privilege, can you contemplate the complexities of things. It is easy to be enlightened when you're privileged. I saw that on another Instagram post, but you know, it's something I've often contemplated about Buddha, who was a prince and saw suffering and realized how privileged his life was, and instead of being able to enjoy the life, he became obsessed with the fact that the deservingness of his life, and so he abandons his family, he abandons his wife, and runs into the wilderness to contemplate the suffering that he didn't experience, and then so he gets to enjoy the suffering that others worked so very hard to escape from, so that he could develop the idea of suffering is in the mind. Right? The poor suffer their daily lives, or the poor enjoy the abundance of poverty. What? That's a crazy statement right there, Trinity. Yeah. When you are wealthy, you have an abundance of resources. You have an abundance of free time because you have resources that allow you to purchase the labor of others, to accomplish the things that others must labor to do for themselves. It frees you from the grounding experience of laundry or dishes or these other things, right? But you become consumed with other types of suffering. I think I'm giving a talk or I'm participating in a conversation about what does it mean to be human. And some say to be human is to suffer. Forgive me if I'm meandering, but you're the one paying attention, and I'm welcoming your attention. So, or is it to be human is to seek an escape from suffering? Is it to be human to seek out escape and incur suffering? Now let's go from a Christian context. And why are these things different? Why am I going from Buddha to Christianity? Well, because Christianity has put out a doctrine about suffering that it's almost as if suffering is a reward, right? Forgive me. I was trying to generate an agreement, and that's not what I'm seeking here. Blessed are the persecuted, blessed are the poor. And blessing is supposed to be a good thing, right? Poor in spirit. But blessing in the Beatitudes seems to be identified with groups that you don't find blessed. Like, we think prosperity is blessing. But when you don't have prosperity, financially, agriculturally, the way we come to define societal wealth, you see someone that has an abundance, right? And we forget what our abundances are, because we can become distracted with this beautiful idea of abundance, right? Instead of the complexity of abundance. The beautiful idea of abundance is that somehow you have no suffering. But the truth is that I think humanity, the fewer choices and the fewer options creates a focus that brings about clarity. And maybe that's what the Beatitudes are talking about, right? Because I don't think Jesus hates what he was talking about in the way he refers to money and wealth and the wealthy and all of that was primarily built around government officials and the misuse of their power, their abundance, and their largesse to aggrandize and pleasure themselves instead of taking care of the populace, instead of taking care of people. And one hopes that, like, when Buddha returned from being out in the wilderness and suffering starvation and deprivation and it's not like we have this idyllic view of nature. He would have experienced every frustration of nature that exists out there, while also finding a peace, right? A peace that focused his mind, because he still was probably fairly lazy. What are you talking about? What do you mean Buddha was lazy? He sat around all day and thought things and tried not to think things. And then other gave him food. His dog went and fetched food for him. You know what I'm saying? He didn't change his nature as a ruler. He changed his experience of the perspective. Christ had a job. He worked. He labored for a long time before he began his ministry. And then once he began his ministry, it doesn't seem like, it doesn't really go into it, because when you're reading scripture or stories or anything else, the mundane is ignored unless it is a lesson for the sacred. And the profane is only ever discussed as an admonishment of the self, right? But Christ enjoyed themselves. And I say them because Christ was experiencing life as both man and God, and experienced the totality of time as the Spirit. So Christ had the mind of a king, the experience of a craftsman, and the death of a criminal, and the resurrection of a God. Think about that. How many times do we need to experience the death of self to be resurrected into the more perfected version of ourselves? How many times do we need to arrive at an experience with expectation that creates a suffering instead of experiencing? The point of scripture, the point of sutras, the point of these stories that we tell is to teach us things, to establish an authority of experience, to bring us to a mindset, a focus of who we need to be in a given moment. What is the point of this video? The point of this video is about complexity versus simplicity. You can be a simple person to address complex situations, or you can be a complex person who acts simply. So that it's not that fundamentalism is wrong, or relativism. What's wrong is when we become so attached to how we must hold the world in tension to the exclusion of the reality. And that, I think, is what this video is about. The simple truth of life is it's complex. And when we begin to lose sight of the complexity, it is dangerous for us. Well, I think that's all I need to say for this moment, my shining ones. I love you. For you. Stay crazy, folks.